Democratic Senators Adam Schiff and Tim Kaine have introduced a new resolution under the War Powers Act that would stop U.S. military strikes against boats from Venezuela. President Trump claims those boats are smuggling fentanyl into the U.S. Why does that matter? Well, first, it's because it's introduced under something called being privileged, which means simply it's going to be guaranteed a vote on the floor. Little chance of passing, okay, so that's not why we're concentrating on it. But I wanted to do a hot take because this issue has been bothering me a lot about it. Even if it were to pass, Trump would unquestionably veto it. But it will put Republicans on the record on voting on this question of whether Trump's use of force against these ships is legally justified. Now, why should we care about what's going on here? First, we should care because the Trump administration has killed at least 14 people in these strikes. Take a look at that. And second, what's the basis for these killings? The basis seems to be that Trump and his officials like Marco Rubio claim they were narco-terrorists. But they don't feel like they need to provide any evidence about that besides their assertions that the people killed were involved in narcotics. I guess they want to assume that they were armed. There's no evidence about that. And there's apparently no effort to actually intercept the boats rather than simply attacking them and killing everybody on board. That's what we're hearing. Now, what are the legal and political concerns? Here, let's start with the political concerns. This is how Venezuela seems to be reacting to it. And Senator Adam Schiff put up a post, was very concerned about this, saying that, quote, "You probably saw that the president has blown another ship out of the water," again claiming that these were narco-terrorists and somehow that he has the authority to do this. He does not. Schiff goes on to say, "I don't want to see us get into some war with Venezuela because the president is just blowing ships willy-nilly out of the water," unquote. That's a political concern. Are we going to get into war? Legal concern, as Time magazine has reported, citing a bunch of experts on international law. For example, Michael Becker, assistant professor in international human rights law at Trinity College in Dublin, told the BBC, quote, "The fact that U.S. officials describe the individuals killed by the U.S. strike as narco-terrorists does not transform them into lawful military targets." That's a quote. That professor says the strike likely violated the UN, the United Nations bar on the use of force, as well as protections of the right to life under international human rights law. In a post he did on X, he said, quote, quite poignant here, very concise, quote, "It doesn't matter if the victims are criminals, these are murders," unquote. Other legal experts also weighed in to the BBC. Another quote from Mary Ellen O'Connell, professor at the Notre Dame Law School. She said, quote, "Intentional killing outside armed conflict hostilities is unlawful unless it is to save a life immediately." Doesn't seem like there's much life being saved there. It's not just an international law issue in question. In the U.S., this gets to the War Powers Act, the president is required to have congressional approval in deciding whether the U.S. should go to war. And although he has some authority to use force in some limited circumstances, that's been under criticism because presidents, including Trump, can push that too far to basically put us into a state of war without seeking congressional approval. Now, we here at Legal AF want to do the both sides thing. So let's point out that in Time magazine, they did quote a Pentagon source who said to CNN, quote, "If there was a boat full of Al-Qaeda fighters smuggling explosives towards the U.S., would anyone even ask this question?" Now, let's make this distinction. Congress did officially authorize U.S. use of force against Al-Qaeda under the 2001 provision after the September 11th attacks. It has not done that against any organization from Venezuela, whether it is the Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan drug gang that Trump wants to designate as terrorists, any organizations from Venezuela, much less potentially people on boats, maybe they were fishermen, and they haven't done that with regard to drug dealers from Venezuela either. I mean, question how you're going to identify who's the drug dealer, but none of those people have been authorized to use military force against. I'm going to close with a quote, and I can't believe I'm actually quoting Senator Rand Paul. We'll put this up for you because Rand Paul expressed concern about the nature of these strikes. And he said, did he ever read, meaning Trump, To Kill a Mockingbird? Did he ever wonder what might happen if the accused were immediately executed without trial or representation? That's from his X posting. And he was referring also to President J.D. Vance, arguing that, quote, killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military, unquote. That's the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. And that does really come to the central question, right? Who decides who gets killed by the U.S. military, and how are those decisions made? What process do they use to make these decisions? The answer in the Trump administration seems to be Donald Trump makes those decisions, and he doesn't need any process to make those kinds of decisions. Food for thought, but alarming. If he can make those decisions about people in international waters, what kind of decisions can he make about people within the confines of the domestic United States of America? We'll leave you with that thought. Talk to you soon.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.